Have you, just like the photo I have in front of us, all of us here on my screen, have you ever met a person who can be called a bundle of joy, who's always laughing, who always brings sunshine no matter where she is? She's full of laughter. I'm talking of none other than my sister-in-law, Shanta Iyer. She is such a treat to be with. She keeps all of us in splits all the time, and we look forward to her visits to India. Thank you so much, Manni, for giving that introduction about me. Thanks a lot. And I must thank you all once again for having me today. By the end of the evening, I hope I don't get brickbats and chappals from you all. Now, who said I'm old? Uh, Now, none of us like to be called old, right? We all think we are young, and we enjoy it when somebody says, "Don't tell me that's your age. Wow, you don't even look 50, and that's your age. Wow." At such a time, our life is made. Okay. Be it man or woman, we all love to be called young. Okay. But that's only externally. What people are talking about is our external appearance. We don't know what's happening inside us, right? But even that gives us a lot of joy, because we like to think we are not old, but unconsciously, many times, we behave in such a way which does not reflect what we want actually, what we love. We love to be young, but sometimes we don't uh, act the way that we should be. We act older than we are. Now, how I'm planning to take you all through today evening session is in 4 parts. That is, first is recognize what your actual age is. Okay. Second is, why do we age? The third is how to stop aging or how to slow down aging. And the fourth part is actually how to live life as if age doesn't matter. We are all young. Okay, so these are the 4 parts. And I'm very conscious of the time. I hope I finish it in 45 minutes. That's why I said right in the beginning, I made my excuses. No brickbats and no chappals. So I'll start with a small video which shows how we struggle to be successful at every stage of our life. Okay, so just listen to this video. So you see, this is how we all deal with old age. Once we go beyond a point, success becomes that day's struggle or that stage in our life struggle. If we are able to overcome that, that is what success becomes. That is what success is. But actually, it need not be that way. That is my whole point of today's talk. Now, I would like all of you all to just close your eyes for 30 seconds and visualize yourself if you didn't know how old you were, if you didn't have the calendar years. Actually, how would you judge your age to be? How much would you think how many years old would you be? Just think about it. And for yourself, just tell yourself, I think I am 30 years old. I think I'm 90 years old. I think I'm 60 years old. Okay. Now, after having done that, what do you think actually defines age? How did you guess what your age is? What do you feel? Is it definitely, I told you it's not the calendar years. Then is it your biological age? Is it how you look, what people, the feedback you get from people? Is it your habits? Or is it genetic that, okay, my mother never looked 60 years when she was 60 years old. So I suppose even I don't look 60 years. It could be genetic. Or is it your mental age? That is, you start feeling that, yes, I've learned everything that I need to know. It's enough. I'm quite well read. I don't have anything more to read. I don't have anything more to learn. And so I've reached my mental maturity. I'm old. Or is it your psychological age? That is how old you feel, how old you act, or how old you behave. What is it that defines your age? When you shut your eyes, could you place yourself in a particular slot? I am this age. Have you ever thought of yourself in those terms? So today we are going to tickle that portion of you. Let's see if I succeed. Now, most age faster because of 5 aspects of aging. That is our physical conditions, our mental conditions, our emotional conditions, our psychological conditions, and our spiritual conditions. I wouldn't say all of us. There are some people who manage to have a lovely balance in life in spite of whatever circumstances they are in, while there are some people who age much faster than they are actually. Okay, so let's see what each one is, what each of these conditions is. Now, can you see two pictures on your screen? One lady and a gentleman. Both the lady and the gentleman are around the same age, but look at the difference in their body language, in the way they look, and the way they feel about life. The picture is so self-explanatory. How each one faces life. So aging depends completely on how we face our life. Let's see. Our physical conditions. Aging at the cellular level, which leads to diseases and ailments. Now, I wonder if you've heard of Deepak Chopra, all of you. Deepak Chopra, famous writer who lives in US, he had written a book many years back, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. Now, if you read that book, you will realize how beautifully he's explained how aging is completely in our hands. It is up to us. We want to feel old, we'll age faster. And if we want to feel young and we behave in such a way that our cells don't age, because cells normally don't age, they regenerate, they renew themselves every 150 to 500 days. Then why is it that people become old? Because we are conditioned to think about it that way from our birth. 60 வயசு ஆனாக்க உட்கார வேண்டிதான். So let me work as much as possible now. So we are conditioned our brain to that way of thinking, and that translates itself into our body. So it's very important how we take care of our physical condition and all the others as we go forward. I'll tell you about it. Do you keep announcing your age to the world and thus make excuses? ஆமாண்டி, என்னால் இவ்வளவுதான் முடியும், எனக்கு 65 வயசு ஆயிடுத்து, இதுக்கு மேல என்னால முடியாது. We've heard our parents speak like that so often. So we ourselves believe that it's not possible for us because we are already that old. And then when our children call us, come, let's go trekking to the mountains. In the Vaisliya, trekking, you must be joking. So we've decided it's not possible for us. We won't even venture out because we've said, no, that's not possible. So this is our physical conditioning. Now, what's our mental conditioning? uh, so many people, have you heard them say, Pa, I'm wondering when I'm going to retire. I've got fed up of doing the same thing day in and day out, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, rush here, rush there. I'm waiting for the day I'm going to relax and do nothing. Most men speak like that, and most ladies also speak like that regarding the cooking, if they are housewives. I'm fed up of cooking. I'm waiting for a day when I can just relax and not think of what to cook. Look at this man in the picture. He is carrying bricks every day. Now the choice is his. Whether he says, yes, I am contributing to the building of this monument, carrying brick by brick, or he can tell himself, தலையிலித்து தினம் நான் இந்த bricks தூக்க வேண்டியிருக்கு. It's up to us how we take, in what mental state we are when we work. And then also, do we feel controlled by our circumstances? Or do we feel, yes, we are doing what we are doing because it is my choice to do what I'm doing. It is out of my free will that I'm doing it. I'm working out of my choice and my freedom. Is our mental condition that? Next, our emotional condition. Are we going about our day happy and enthusiastic? Look at these old men enjoying their life. You can see complete pleasure on their faces. Or are we always going about complaining and saying, oh gosh, again another day? And then, or are we thinking about negative things all the time? Now, when I say we, by the way, I must clarify myself. I assume that we are a group of all 60 years and above. Meena, correct me if I'm wrong, because I hope we are all...
Not necessary.
Oh, okay.
Not
okay.
necessary. We have Raj, who is our youngest at the moment.
Oh,
of course, Meena is younger to him.
Thank you. I'm preparing you for your old age then.
Thank you.
We will learn these lessons. Absolutely.
Well needed.
But there are a few.
Yeah, because actually we should go through all this in our 40s. Then we are better prepared for our 60s. Actually, that's the right age to start. We do financial planning, but do we do planning for facing our old age? That's the question. Now let's talk about psychological conditions. What are they? Are we always afraid of being lonely and afraid of death? That's what happens to majority of people who've crossed 70, 75, 80. Now they're waiting for death. But at the same time, many of them fear death. I have to say them because I've not reached that stage yet. So here I'll say them. So 80s, they start fearing death. But at the same time, externally, they'll say, I don't know when God is going to call me. That's how they'll talk. And then, are they perpetually worried about something? Psychological conditioning. Are you anxious about the safety of yourself and others? கொஞ்சம் லேட்டா குழந்தைகள் வீட்டுக்கு வெளியில போயிட்டு திரும்பி வந்தா ஏன் இவ்வளவு லேட் ஆயிடுச்சு, நான் எவ்வளவு கவலைப்பட்டேன் தெரியுமா? So we start, old age starts, sort of, you start panicking. And most of the time what happens is, you think of the worst. If a person is late even by 10 minutes, அவனுக்கு ஏதாவது ஆக்சிடென்ட் ஆயிடுத்தோ, எங்கேயாவது அவனுக்கு பஸ் விட்டு போயிடுத்தோ, ட்ரெயின் விட்டு போயிடுத்தோ, ஃப்ளைட் விட்டு போயிடுத்தோ, டாக்ஸி கிடைக்கலையா, அது மாதிரி we think of the worst. Why? Because we tend to think of some bad experience that happened in the past. And we bring that immediate past experience to the present and we try to apply it here. And this is the psychological conditioning that we do to ourselves. Now the spiritual conditioning. What is that? That is, we give a lot of importance to fate. And talalit and talavidi. We give a lot of importance to fate. And we say, let me go to this astrologer, let me go to that palmist, let me do this pariharam in this kovil. All those kind of things we start thinking, we start following, having a blind faith, blind belief, and we use it as a crutch to go through life. And how long can we do this? Many people do it till the end. But this is not the way it should be. There is another way. And that way is if we accept life and live in the now. Okay, that is very, very crucial for us to accept and live in the now. Now, what does this living in the now mean? Here, I would like to mention to you all a book by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know how many of you all have read that book. That's a wonderful book to go through. It absolutely settles our mind to the realities of life, to be in the now and not to live in a psychological time where you're either regretting the past or worrying and anxious about the future. So it tells us how we should accept life and live in the now. It's a beautifully written book. In fact, Eckhart Tolle has become extremely popular because of this book, and it is worth reading. Now, all this while I went through for you to recognize what your actual age is. Like the 5 factors I said, think of the 5 factors and decide what is your actual age. Forget your real calendar age, but based on your psychological, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional age, what is your age? Now let's see the small clip of this movie. This is 102 Not Out. I wonder how many of you would have seen this movie. Did it come to UK, Meena and Raj? Yes, you've seen it. Did you enjoy the movie? Yes, absolutely. So just this is a small clip. I'll explain it after for those who don't understand Hindi.
इतनी हवा अंदर खींचता ना धीरू कि कभी-कभी मेरे को टेंशन हो जाता है कि मेरे लिए कुछ बचेगा कि नहीं। मैं 75 साल का बुढ़ा हूँ, ब्रिज। मैंने बुढ़ापा अपना स्वीकार किया है। इसीलिए मैं तुझे वृद्धाश्रम भेजूँ। ओल्ड एज होम। अरे भाई मैं बाप हूँ, मेरे बेटे को वृद्धाश्रम भेज रहा हूँ तुम लोग।
Okay, so that was just a small clip of this movie called 102 Not Out. Amitabh Bachchan is the father. He is 102 years old, and his son Rishi Kapoor is just 75 years old. Amitabh Bachchan is full of life. He wants to live life to the maximum. He says, I can die any minute, but I want to enjoy life before I die. And his opposite is Rishi Kapoor. He's always complaining. He's full of ailments. He has so many capsules every day. And he's not happy at all. And he's wondering, how can his father not act his age? He asks his father, why don't you be your age? Why are you acting like a small kid? And the father says, why are you acting like an old man? I'm going to send you to an old age home. I can't withstand you anymore. So this is, of course, this movie is an exaggeration, but it is so true. We've come across so many people who go through life this way, who say that, oh, I don't know when God is going to call me. I'm eating so many medications every day. I took care of myself so well, and yet I don't know how I managed to get this sickness and that sickness. So this is how people generally live. Now what happens, Eckhart Tolle says, when you live in the past or you live only worrying about the future, you develop a thing called pain body. What is that pain body? Pain body is, pain body is all the negative feelings that one has, okay? One has a lot of negative feelings, and that is thinking of the past and regretting the past, or thinking of the, because our mind automatically thinks of what is unpleasant. Somehow our brain thinks that way, unless we can train our brain to think only of pleasant things. First thing, the worst comes to our mind, or worried about the future. Now, when you're in your middle age, you say, I mean, in your 40s, you say, I have to save for my old age. I have to save for my children's education. I have to do this. I have to do that. What if this happens? What if that happens? So all the time we are living in the future. And when we come to a certain age where we've retired, we are living in the past. So when is it that we are going to live in the present? So what happens when you live in the past or future? All the negative thoughts become negative emotions. All the negative emotions in turn become your pain bodies. What does that mean? It leads to diseases, chronic illnesses, accidents, injuries, and other kinds of losses. We attract all this to us because of our negative way of thinking. So now, how do we help ourselves? So what do? How do we remove all this negativeness? Yes. So what he says, Eckhart Tolle says is, become aware of your emotions. Stop thinking what you're thinking. See, now if say you go for a long drive with your wife, okay, and there's total silence, just observe your thoughts. Or if you're driving alone, just see where your thoughts have gone. After some time of silence, just be aware of yourself. What was I thinking of now? You'll realize that you were either in the past thinking of what happened yesterday or thinking of what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, so stop thinking, and that's how accidents happen. Think of the now. Think when you're driving the road ahead of you, maybe maximum is how beautiful the scenery on your sides are. Or, sorry, or if a person is talking to you, pay attention to what that person is saying. So stop, just keep a check on your thought process. Watch the mechanics of your mind. And suppose you had an unpleasant day just before going on this drive, then, and you can't but think of it, then the next step would be to speak your mind to the person concerned. Rather than keep it in your mind and keep thinking about it, say you were to speak to the person, then it's out of your system. And if it's your fault, surrender, be magnanimous to accept. If it is the other person's fault, make them realize it. So, but speak your mind instead of keeping it inside you. Because the more you keep something inside you bottled up, the more your pain body develops. Accept this situation, whatever it is. Suppose you had a loss. You have to accept it. You have no other go. You can't set the clock back. Or if it is some pain you have to go through, accept that pain. If you accept the pain is much lesser. You need to experience this to realize the truth of what I'm saying. And now, what happens if you have children at home? Okay, you sent your son or daughter or your husband or your wife to the shop to buy something, and they've forgotten one or two items. Immediately, what is our reaction? You always do this. You are such a forgetful person. Always you're forgetting things. How many times am I to tell you? So we are ready to label the person. We are ready to stand in judgment. Whether it's a teenage child, whether it's a newly married husband, once the honeymoon period is over, all these sort of fighting starts. And labeling happens on both sides, husband and wife. And another situation, suppose you've made a lovely dinner for your husband, okay? The same food which your husband had eaten in your friend's house and he appreciated it a lot. So now today you feel like changing his mood. So you make that food and you keep it and you serve it and you sit down for dinner. But there he very silently eats his food. You're waiting for his reaction, you're waiting and the food is finished but the reaction hasn't happened. And then what happens? You are so thoroughly disappointed. Here, you have three courses of action. One is you eat your disappointment and you take it, you lug it, and you feel sorry for yourself, in which case you are increasing your pain body. Reaction number two, you go fight with him. அன்னைக்கு நீங்க பிரியா அது பண்ணா அவ்வளவு நல்லா இருக்குன்னு சொன்னேன், இன்னைக்கே ஒன்னும் சொல்லி சாப்பிட்டேன், ஒண்ணுமே சொல்லாம சாப்பிட்டீங்க அப்படின்னு you start fighting. That is number two. Or there is a third option. And that option is, okay, you accept it. You don't identify yourself with the situation. You enjoyed the process of making the food. You took some pleasure in producing a dish, a new dish which you had learned from your friend, and you're happy it turned out well. Yes, you're disappointed that your husband did not react positively. He did not appreciate you, but that is his nature. So it's not yesterday that you started living with him. You know his nature. So why not accept it? So then, and also remind yourself, you enjoyed the process of making the food. And your pleasure was in producing a perfect dish, regardless of whether you got appreciation or not. So if we see life from this angle, we do not accumulate pain body. And this pain body, mind you, starts accumulating from a very young age. Right from our teens, 20s, 30s, it starts accumulating. That's how somewhere in the 50s and 60s, people end up with diabetes. Now, whenever, say for example, a lady has, or a man has arthritis. Have you ever noticed the minute the person is diagnosed with arthritis, their gait changes. They start walking this way. Actually, they may not be in so much of pain, but mentally they are already in pain and they start walking like this. Okay. And they love talking about their arthritis to people, how much their legs are paining, how much difficulty they have standing and cooking, but yet how well they manage to manage their life. This is their way of saying, of talking. And actually, they can also help. How can they help their pain? By being a witness. After all, Eckhart Tolle, what he has to say is all taken from our Indian philosophy, all from our Vedantas. He follows Jiddu Krishnamurti and Ramana Maharishi. He acknowledges that in his preface, and one of the people he follows. Of course, he follows Buddha also. So he says that if you become a witness to your pain, then the pain will not trouble you so much. Like your body is a dress which you worn, that pain is part of this dress. So just look at the pain like that. Let not the pain become your identity. So if you manage to come to that mental level, then that means you have accessed the power of now. Look at this horse. Look at the conditioning the horse has had. Whether it's a horse or a camel or an elephant. Have you seen the temple elephants? A small little peg. The elephant's rope or chain is tied to a small little peg, but the elephant doesn't move. Same way with this horse. You think the plastic chair is going to, if the horse decides to run, where is the plastic chair going to stop it? But the horse is conditioned from its birth to stay there. The minute one side of its leash is tied, it's conditioned to stay in that place. And that is how we condition our minds since our birth. வயசானா இதெல்லாம் ஆகும், இப்படிதான் உடம்புக்கு வரும். அது என்ன பண்ணுறது? தலையிலிருந்து நம்ம தாங்கி தான் ஆணும். That's how we condition our mind, which is not necessary at all. Now slows down the aging process. How? How being in the now slows down the aging process? Just see this. If we were to, in fact, the older you get, the younger the inner body will feel if you master the art of being in the now. Like I told you earlier, being in the now means not thinking of the past, not thinking of the future. Once you planned for the day or planned for your future, just leave it. But think of the thing in hand now. Be in the present moment. Every minute is a present moment. Every minute which is past is a past moment. So if you're in the now, your physical body will be more alive. Your cells will have more time to renew itself. Like I said earlier, the cells renew themselves anywhere between 150 days and 500 days. So if you want your cells to renew themselves, and it's the cells that degenerate and which leads to aging. So if your want your cells to regenerate, you need to be in the now. So, so that your body will not grow old, and it'll slower the rate of growing old. Say, for example, you've gone, some robber has been eyeing your apartment, and just for 2 days, you go out for the weekend. You come back and you find your house ransacked. This is your house. Just like the criminals, your diseases are waiting to attack your body. And your immune system, the minute it is lowered, all these unwanted guests come in. So the trick is to keep our immune system high. So now, excuse me, let's see what I finished telling you why we age, right? Now, let me tell you, and I did cover a part of how we can stop aging. During the younger days, we give more importance to our sensory pleasures. Yes, all of us know that. And then when we age a little more, what becomes most important for us, what gives us maximum happiness is our relationships, all our emotional conditioning, all our emotional pleasures. And then what happens in old age when our children have flown the nest? When we just have each other, or in some cases, we are just there by ourselves. Then what would give us happiness? This is the time where old people either live in the past or worry for their future. What happens if I fall down? What will happen if suddenly I faint? Who will come and take care of me? We all start thinking in those terms. So it is in old age where you need to have wow moments. What are these wow moments that I'm talking about? Real happiness in old age. How can you get them? These wow moments happen when we make others happy by sharing with them whatever we have worthy of giving. Now, with your permission, I'll give you a little bit of my personal experience here. Once I came back to India and settled here, I started doing corporate training, and for 3 years I did it, and there's good money in that. But then I always felt there's something missing, because right from a very young age, I wanted to do social service. I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference in other people's life, bring some happiness in others' lives. So by doing corporate training, I didn't find much difference between teaching in a college, 1 to 100 students, and doing corporate training, again, having huge workshops, or taking individual batches of trainees. I said, somehow this is not very satisfying. I need to do something beyond this. And when my mind started thinking like that, that's when I suddenly came across an instrument called genetic brain profiling. Now, this genetic brain profiling happens with the ridges in our fingers. Okay, we take all the 10 fingerprints, and there's a science called dermatoglyphics. And many scientists, psychologists, psychiatrists have done research on this, and they have come up with this science, and it is a proven science, where these ridges are formed in the mother's womb when the fetus is about 13 weeks, from 13 weeks to 24 weeks. When the neurons in the brain develops, these fingerprints, ridges in the fingers develop. So that is how these scientists have found out how they can interpret these ridges, because each finger is connected to one lobe of the brain. And with that help, how they can help people. humanity know their strengths and weaknesses and know what their genetic potential is, what their genetic capabilities are. Once I came across this, my wow moment happened. And I was able to see very clearly the path ahead for me. And then after that, I said no more of corporate training. I refused all other assignments which I hadn't taken. I completed the ones I had taken. And I said, now I'm going to concentrate on this. And because of that, I enrolled into MSc Psychology. Because I said psychology will help me to understand people better. Actually, it is not required for this, but this is so absorbing that I said with the help of psychology, I would be able to add more value to transforming people and their whatever ailments they have, mental ailments. Now, let's come to this portion where we can reinforce how to stop aging. All of us know that we need to be grateful. We all know we need to be positive in our thoughts. We all know we need to be grateful. But do we actually carry it forward? At times we are. At times we do thank God. At times we do say our prayers. Sorry. But how grateful are we? Okay. Now there are different ways of being grateful. I'm sorry if I talk too long. That's why I like interactive sessions. Sorry. Let me tell you the story of this famous writer. He had retired just 1 year back. He was 60 a year back and he retired. Now he was sitting at his table in a very sad, forlorn look. His wife came into the room and she was wondering why her husband is so sad. She looked down at the table and she saw a sheet of paper on which he had written, "Last year was a horrible year for me." Many of you would have heard of the story because it made its round in WhatsApps. Last year was a horrible year for me. I had to retire after 30 years of working in a company, in a publishing company. And I ended up with gallbladder problems. So I had to have a surgery and I was in bed for many weeks after that. And then my father passed away. And then my husband, who was supposed to get into the medical college, he also didn't get through because he had an accident and my car was totally damaged. Can anyone ask for a worse year than this? What a horrible year it was. And he's written all this and he's thinking very sadly about all this. When his wife quietly takes the paper from his table and she goes to another room, after some time she comes back and she has written something with his name there. So and she places it beside his sheet of paper. He looks down and you know what he reads? His wife has written, "Last year was a wonderful year for me. I retired after 30 years of being in the same job and writing things because the publisher wanted me to write those things. Now I can write what I want. I have my full freedom. And for so many months I was suffering with pain in my gallbladder. Thank God it was removed. Now I am free of that pain. My father, who was 95, was suffering in life. Thank you, God, for putting an end to his suffering. And he is now resting in peace. My son, he had such a major accident. Thank you, God, for saving him. He's not become disabled because of the accident. Only the car got disabled. It's okay. I can do the car up again. But thank you, God, for saving my son." The same situation, the husband, the minute he read it, he couldn't believe his eyes. He looked up at his wife and he said, "Thank you so much for opening my eyes." The same situation, how see the two different perspectives. It is not happiness that makes us grateful, but it is gratefulness that makes us happy. So, in case you have difficulties and you're in confusion, and if you have a friend in your wife or husband, good. Otherwise, find a friend and talk about it. Change your thoughts to positivity. Avoid social comparison. Pay attention to the beauty around us. Discover your inner self. Smile a lot and look at the bright side of life. This is very important to stay young. And most of us, when we age, we forget to do this. So, now, what are the other factors which can lead to happiness? Okay, have you all heard of this happiness hormones? I don't know how many of you all have heard of it. If there are any doctors in our group, they would know about it. These happiness hormones, like they are called the feel-good hormones or feel-good chemicals. Serotonin, which is manufactured in the brain as well as the intestines. What does it do? How is the secretion of serotonin increased? Whenever we act in a beneficial way to others, if we do a good deed, if we help the society, if we do something for the environment, for the nature, or we give good advice to people, which they are very grateful to us for taking it. Of course, not unsolicited advice. If we do that, our serotonin automatically increases. On the contrary, what happens when our serotonin level is low? Loneliness and depression sets in. And in old age, this is a very, very common ailment, depression and loneliness. Nowadays, why old age? Even youngsters are depressed. So many people are on antidepressants. The more number of youngsters I see in antidepressants are increasing. So if we can practice gratitude, gratitude is enough to help us come out of our depression. All we need to do is practice gratitude. Now, dopamine is another chemical. Dopamine is produced whenever we appreciate others. How many of us can honestly say we are in the habit of appreciating others? Just now, of course, Meena appreciated my Puja Kovil. Immediately I thought, oh, her dopamine must be high. Because even small appreciations increases our dopamine level. So it motivates us to do better. It makes us accomplish more. We've heard of great critics. Oh, he's a wonderful music critic. Oh, he's a wonderful movie buff, movie critic. Have you ever heard of great appreciators in life? Never. Because it's not in us to appreciate. Whereas if we carry on appreciating, not on the face of it, actually appreciating people, there's no point in being superficial about it. That's not going to increase our dopamine. Again, dopamine is found in the brain and part of hypothalamus. Now, dopamine increases with appreciation, motivation. Self-motivation happens more when the dopamine is high. So when we are unhappy, when we procrastinate, we say, oh, not today, I'll do it tomorrow. When we are in self-doubt, when we lack enthusiasm, be aware that the dopamine level in your body is down. At that point, do something to increase it. Motivate yourself. Go out and appreciate somebody. Even if it is a small person, even if it is a flower in the garden, start admiring the flower, start appreciating the flower. start admiring the lovely smell of that flower. So this kind of appreciation improves the dopamine level. Now, oxytocin is another feel-good chemical. What does oxytocin do? It is again part of the hypothalamus. It increases the trust, the intimacy between people. It fosters good relationship, strengthens relationship. It reduces cardiovascular stress and improves the immune system. So if you have, how do you increase oxytocin? By giving hugs. Sorry. Now, our culture will not allow us to give hugs. Okay, we don't go hugging strangers like the Westerners do. They have a lovely habit. We don't do it. So what can we substitute hugs with? Gifts. The pleasure in receiving gifts or the pleasure in giving gifts, if we consciously practice that, it will improve our oxytocin, and you will realize that biologically your relationship with that person improves. So giving gifts is a good practice. And the last feel-good chemical is endorphins. Now, endorphins are released in response to pain and stress, but because it helps alleviate pain and anxiety and makes us feel happy. How do we increase this? By regular exercise. First of all, why do we get ailments? Because we don't exercise. So we are in that vicious downward spiral. So if we exercise, we can pull ourselves up. The more we exercise, the more endorphins are released. The more endorphins are released, the less pain we feel in our body. So even if we are down with arthritis, we can't walk, it's so important to carry on walking regardless of the pain. Same thing goes for every kind of ailment in the body. So you see how all these chemicals can control our happiness and how we feel. Yes, Manni, what happened? Okay. So I think she can't hear. Okay, so now let's see how to become young. Okay, now we come to the next slide. Why am I not? Yeah. So let's see. Now between 65 and death, how do we ensure that we remain young? Okay, how do we ensure that? So this is so far, I went through how do you recognize your age? Why do we age? How to stop aging? Now, let's summarize all that we spoke about and see how we can become young again. Okay? So use the money you saved up for yourself and enjoy life. Don't let, excuse me, Raj, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah. No issues.
Why my cursor is not working? I don't know why. I know why my cursor is not working. I'm not able to shift my this. You can see my slide, isn't it?
Yes, I can see, and I can see you switch the slides as well. So
Okay. So I don't know. Somebody is trying to desperately contact me. I'm sorry about it. Let me switch off my phone. Okay. Use the money you saved up on yourself and enjoy your life.
Let me know if I can help.
Others don't know how much you worked hard to save up this money. All your life, all our life, we've worked for our children, at least after retirement. And once our children are settled, it's time we took care of ourselves. It's time we turned our thoughts inward into our inner development. That is so, so important, because all our children do extremely well. We've given them a good education, given them a good upbringing, and they are all doing very well. Then why should we unnecessarily worry about them, worry about our grandchildren? They are all absolutely capable of taking care of themselves. So we need to start living for our inner well-being. So we need to exercise adequately, eat moderately, and sleep sufficiently. Enjoy each other. Remember, the race to the finish line has begun. The minute you cross 60 and you're still together, you know that the race has begun. It's one at a time. So let's start enjoying our partner. Don't stress over little things, and always be in the present. Regardless of age, keep your loving relationships alive. That is with your partner, with your family, with your neighbors, with everybody around. Very important, give importance to your physical appearance and give importance to your health. Respect the younger generation and their opinions. They are the future. So never use such terms like, in my time it was like this. From today onwards, your time is the present time. Never to go back into the past. Past is gone, forgotten. Even what happened yesterday is forgotten. Today is my time. That's what our attitude should be. Life is too short to waste your days being cynical, bitter, or complaining. Spend your time around cheerful people, because cheerful people rub it off on you. Have some hobby, travel as much as you can, meet as many new faces as you can, and don't hold grudges against anyone. Forgive, forget, and move on. Remember, the mind loves problems because they give you an identity. Okay? You hang on to your problems and that becomes your identity. So let not such negative thoughts influence you. If you want to improve the quality of your life, you need to improve the quality of your thoughts. Laugh away your worries. Remember, you're the lucky one who has managed to live this long. Unlucky ones, unfortunately, die an early death. We are still alive because there's so much more to achieve in life. Let me tell you the story of this frog. Once a frog, by mistake, jumped into a vessel of hot water which was kept on a stove. The water was quite hot, but the frog said, "Oh, my body, I can regulate my body temperature to match this heat." So it regulates its body temperature. The water becomes hotter still. The frog is able to regulate his body temperature. The water becomes hotter still. And yet again, he's able to manage it. But now the water has reached boiling point. And now suddenly the frog realizes that he wants to jump out. He can't stand it. He can't regulate his body temperature anymore. He wants to jump out. He struggles, but he's not able to jump out. He dies. So what do we learn from this story? We can, in our life, so many times we find ourselves in situations where we know we are heading towards some disaster. But we say, yeah, let me adjust. Let me pull along as much as I can. And when I can't, I'll move out. By then it may become too late. By the time you say, when I can't, I'll adjust till I can. When I can't, let me move out. Like that frog. Can we blame the hot water? Can the frog blame the hot water for its fate? Or should the frog blame its own decision-making capability? This story has a powerful message for us. So know your limits. Timing is very important in life. Timing for everything is very important. And this timing is controlled by our prefrontal and our frontal brain. This is what we teach in genetic brain profiling. And now we come to the last part, which is, I would say, live with a purpose till the end. Age doesn't matter. I don't know, Raj, if you've come across this. This is a Japanese concept called Ikigai. Now, Ikigai says, do what you love doing, do what the world needs, do what you can be paid for, and do what you're good at. Okay, but how do you find your Ikigai? When you do what you love and what you're good at, that can become your profession, your passion and your profession. When you are good at something and you get well paid for it, that becomes your profession and your vocation. When you're well paid for it and you are helping the world with something, that becomes your vocation and your mission. Now, at this stage in our life, I'm talking to the rest, not to Meena and Raj. At this stage in our life, we should do what we love and what the world needs. So we know what our mission in life is. It's very, very important to know the purpose of our life. If we are still alive, if God has kept us alive still, that means there is something for us to do still, something which we can give to the world. There is something, some part of us still which we can do. So what is that? That is what we need to realize for ourselves. We need to go into that inward journey. Forget about the external aches and pains, and if we do live our life with purpose, we are forever young. And we'll be young at heart, we'll be young in our external, if we take care of our body, we'll be young at heart, we'll be young in our psychological mind, our physical mind, our mental mind, our spiritual mind. So with that, I come to the end of my talk. Anybody would like to ask any questions? I have a small video. In case there is time, I'll put it. It's about 2 minutes. It's a beautiful video in case you want to see it. Watch this video.
ऐसा कौन शेयर है